Somewhere on your path of awakening, maybe after a profound spiritual realization or a personal collapse, you sensed a shift. You noticed the illusion, the patterns, the constant noise, and then came the silence. At first it felt powerful, even uplifting, but gradually the sense of purpose faded. Not suddenly, not with drama, quietly, as if your soul had turned the volume down on life and never turned it back up. You stopped pursuing. You stopped caring. Not recklessly, but in that subtle, existential sigh sort of way. The question began to echo louder. Why do I feel so numb now that I finally see the truth? It's a strange paradox. We often expect spiritual awakening to fuel our passion. Yet for many, especially the deeply reflective, the sensitive, the seekers, it does the opposite. It empties us. I recall speaking with a friend, brilliant, spiritually aware, immersed in all the well-known teachings, Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, Krishnamurti. After enduring a dark night of the soul, she experienced a profound awakening. She told me she saw through the illusions of self, ego, and chasing external achievement. And yet, 2 months later, she found herself staring at the ceiling, barely able to get out of bed. She confessed, "I used to cry about not accomplishing enough. Now I don't care if I accomplish anything at all. I thought awakening would inspire me, not leave me this way." Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, spoke of this post-awakening fog long ago. He didn't speak in trendy, spiritual language, yet he understood what happens when the unconscious becomes conscious. Jung once said, "Enlightenment doesn't come by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." It sounds inspiring, but its meaning is far more unsettling. Awakening isn't an ending. It's the start of a kind of psychological death. The death of the person you believed yourself to be. The systems that once gave life direction, goals, careers, relationships, even your sense of time, begin to dissolve. But here's the important part. Your ego doesn't disappear. It becomes disoriented. It loses its map. And without a new map, motivation fades. It's not that you're depressed or unwilling to move forward. You're simply in a state of limbo. You've awakened from something, but you haven't awakened into anything yet. This is where things get both profound and widely misunderstood. What you're experiencing right now is not failure. It's not clinical depression or anxiety. It's something ancient and deeply meaningful. Jung emphasized that modern society avoids this stage at all costs. This sacred pause, this void, this in-between space is in fact essential. It's a necessary step in individuation, the process of becoming your truest self. And yet, no one really prepares you for this part, do they? That's what we're going to explore next. What's actually unfolding in your psyche after awakening, and how this temporary loss of motivation could be the greatest spiritual upgrade of your life, if you learn to see it clearly. Before we continue, if you enjoy expanding your perspective and exploring life's deeper layers, consider subscribing to Fractal Wisdom. This channel is here to reveal the unseen and support those navigating the unusual and often challenging path of awakening. If you've been drifting in that post-awakening haze, wondering where your spark went, you're not losing your mind. You're experiencing a psychological shift most people don't recognize. It's not just a change in thought patterns. It's a reprogramming of your inner operating system. The goals you once chased, the endless to-do lists, 5-year strategies, and hustle playlists no longer inspire you. Not because you failed, but because the very system that drove your motivation is dissolving. Carl Jung anticipated this long before it became a trending topic online. Let's explore this further. For much of your life, motivation came from your ego identity, the version of me you believed yourself to be. You wanted success, recognition, love, and approval. There's nothing wrong with that. It's simply part of human growth. Jung described this as the persona, the mask we wear to function in society. But awakening removes that mask. Suddenly you're no longer trying to impress, to win, or to fit in, because you begin to see the entire game for what it is. And here's the challenge. Without the mask, old goals don't apply anymore. They were designed for someone you've outgrown. It's like stepping off stage mid-performance, suddenly unsure of your lines. That's why motivation feels absent. You didn't lose drive. You've simply outgrown the fuel that once powered it. Jung believed we are not meant to serve the ego, but to integrate it, aligning it with something greater. He called this process individuation, the path of becoming a whole unified self. This deeper self isn't concerned with praise, status, or even certainty. It exists to express truth. Once awakening begins, your psyche starts recalibrating, rejecting anything artificial, forced, or rooted in ego, whether that's jobs, relationships, ambitions, or even the vision boards you carefully designed a few years ago. This is why awakening often feels both liberating and disorienting at the same time. But Jung cautioned, if we stop here, we get stuck. Many people awaken, only to fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing, convincing themselves that nothing has meaning, that everything is illusion. They drift, detach, and numb themselves, mistaking detachment for withdrawal. Yet the self seeks something else. It longs to live through you, to bring the sacred into human form. It doesn't reject the world, it reframes your place within it. To embrace this shift, you must pass through an unusual middle stage Jung described clearly, though few recognize it when they're in it. This stage after awakening is rarely discussed. It isn't glamorous and won't gather thousands of likes. It doesn't look like meditating abroad or posting wise quotes online. Instead, it looks like this, sitting quietly, unable to explain yourself as life rushes past. Jung explained you're not lost, you're in transition. You've stepped away from the ego, but haven't yet discovered how to fully live from the self. This in-between state is not failure. It's a rite of passage. In a culture obsessed with productivity, stillness is often misread as laziness and pause mistaken for paralysis. That misjudgment turns into self-criticism, which blocks the very energy your soul is trying to reclaim. Jung gave this pause a name, enantiodromia, the moment when things swing into their opposite. After awakening, the inner pendulum shifts from ego-driven striving to soul-centered stillness, from I must do everything to why do anything. This swing is sacred, it restores balance. Ancient myths call it the hermit's path, the death before rebirth. It's the stage where the caterpillar dissolves inside the cocoon, no longer an insect, not yet a butterfly, just formless goo. And yes, goo doesn't achieve or hustle. It dissolves, and it's here that the ego begins to panic. It seeks action, identity, and direction. Yet the deeper self whispers, let go. I'm creating something beneath the surface. This is where much of modern spirituality avoids the difficult path. It often promotes ideas like follow your joy or stay in high vibrations. While intention and energy do play a role, Carl Jung would remind us that bypassing the darker aspects means missing the true. Jung emphasized that integrating the shadow, facing the hidden and uncomfortable parts of ourselves, is not an option or an extra task. It is the essential foundation of becoming whole. That sense of emptiness you may feel is not failure. It is the unconscious rising to the surface. You are not breaking down, you are processing. The psyche is remarkably intelligent. It can pause your drive, your clarity, and even your motivation. So you are guided to witness, feel, and reclaim what has long been suppressed. This is the actual work. And here's the shift. When you stop fighting the void, something begins to change. Motivation reappears, but in a new form. It's no longer anxious, performative, or tied to endless hustle. Instead, it carries a quiet, timeless strength, like remembering who you are rather than chasing something outside yourself. Jung described this as the emergence of the self, not a theory, but a living inner compass. After walking through stillness, silence, and deep pause, you begin to sense a subtle stirring. Not explosive, not dramatic, but a calm inner direction. It doesn't lead you back to the old life. It guides you to build a new one. This is where the self begins to express, not through words but through gentle nudges, resonances, and what Jung called the symbolic life. He believed that once the ego surrenders and the unconscious is integrated, we can begin living from a place deeper than personality. That's when life shifts from survival to meaning. And here's the surprising part. It often feels beautifully ordinary. When the self takes the lead, you don't hustle, you respond. You're not driven by fear of missing out, but guided by what feels true. You stop chasing clarity and instead recognize it when it shows up. Living from the self doesn't guarantee constant motivation in the usual sense. You may still feel tired, uncertain, or even grieve. That's part of being human. But what fades is that ongoing sense of inner conflict, the weight of forcing yourself into a life that doesn't fit. Instead, you notice the urge to create, even when no one is watching. You begin saying no to things that don't resonate, even if they look good on paper. You follow curiosity over checklists. You choose peace over performance. This becomes the new fuel, not adrenaline, but alignment. Jung described this as living symbolically, not in fantasy, but with soul. It's learning to trust inner imagery, dreams, synchronicities, and intuition as real guidance. So what does this look like in daily life? Sometimes it's as simple as asking different questions. Instead of, "What should I do?" ask, "What's quietly calling me?" Instead of, "What's the plan?" ask, "Where is life nudging me?" Instead of, "How can I prove myself?" ask, "What feels honest?" This is how you begin to move with life rather than try to control it. And this doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means transforming it. Ambition becomes a devotion to truth, presence, and growth. And the irony is that this energy accomplishes far more than ego ever could. Yet it's sustainable. It's powered by soul. This is the motivation of the self, not to impress, but to express. And it often leads you to create, serve, teach, heal, and build. Not because you're told to, but because your whole being says yes. So if you felt like your spark has dimmed after awakening, remember, the old fire burned out so you could discover a deeper flame. One that doesn't waver when external winds shift. Carl Jung never promised an easy path. If you're listening to this, you're already walking it. It's not about regaining your old drive. It's about uncovering a new one rooted in wholeness, not performance. This isn't the end of your awakening. It's the beginning of your becoming. If this resonated, if it gave words to something you've been quietly navigating, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience. And if you want more content that blends psychology, soul, and self-awareness in practical ways, make sure to subscribe to Invisible Threads, because awakening isn't the final chapter, it's where the real story begins.